Hey guys, it's John from Geek Fandom. Today we'll be reviewing Iron Man and Captain America from Sideshow Collectibles. These pieces are part of the Avengers Assemble line and are 5th scale. These are the first two of a 4-part series. Next year they will release Thor and Hulk. Iron Man weighs about 7.5 pounds. He has a height of 16 inches, a width about 13, and a total depth of about 7 inches. There are a lot of things to like about this piece, mostly the amazing paint job they did. Start off by looking at the base. They did a nice job. It has a very smooth, almost slate-like feel. The dirt, it has almost a wet-like look to it, as if possibly it was raining. Next, the boots. You can see have dirt and scuff marks on them, which is a nice touch, and it actually has a rough feeling texture. The amazing part is this is all sculpted out of resin, but the gauntlets and the boots, they actually have a metallic or a die-cast feel to it. Next, the legs and the arms. It has that old school, very yellow, very gold looking Iron Man colors. Once again, it's a smooth texture. It's definitely different than the gauntlets and the boots. Then you have the spots that the undersuit, silver here and underneath the armpits, behind the knees, and a completely different feel. So the torso, the gauntlets, the head, they all have the same paint, the same texture. Feels almost if it's a die-cast material. This piece has a light-up feature. Now, I know a lot of people are either pro or against light-up features. The main reason to be against it is if for any reason the light feature stops working, you have pretty much a broken piece. What they did nice about this one is all the lighting mechanism is housed inside the base with a metal peg that the leg goes into. So there's no exposed wires, and as long as you take care of it, I think it should last you for quite a while. You can see the gauntlets for the repulsors light up. So these are the best points about it. It looks fantastic. It reminds you of a traditional Iron Man. And I believe this isn't based off of one particular Iron Man, that they did a collaboration of different styles, and it was up to the artist's interpretation. But to me, this reminds me of old school Iron Man, and this is the one with the exclusive face that was from the exclusive edition, which was limited to, I believe, 500. And we'll swap out the head for the one that comes with the standard edition. It feels very smooth. It has a gloss finish to it. I don't think you're going to have an issue if you actually touch it by hands. It looks great. It gives you a different look without having to change too much up. I think they did a great job on both portraits. Now leads us to the one gripe I have about the piece. Just the base seems to be a little unstable. It's never tipped over on its own, but it just feels like with any type of slight pressure that this thing could possibly tip over. It just has bad body roll. I just think it's because the size that they went with and the actual weight of the base itself, it's not heavy enough to keep it upright. Once again, in the cabinet, never had an issue. The other thing I did was put a little piece of cardboard or thick paper underneath it, and it would just balance it a little better. The other thing I'm not a big fan of is the technique that they use to make it look like it's worn or battle damaged. I had to look online at the pictures closely because I wasn't sure. It's hard to distinguish if it's done on purpose or if it's a bad paint job. As you can see, there's marks all over the suit that I believe their impression was to make it look like he was in battle. The only problem with it, it's hard to tell when you're looking at a piece if it's purposely done like that or you just have botched up paint jobs. The only way I was able to tell was one was through the pictures, and if you touch the spots where they are, they're very smooth. So it's not a chip and it's not an abrasion. But to me, a battled look or worn look shouldn't just look like that paint was missed on spots. So let's now move over to the Captain America piece. He's a heavier piece. He weighs just a little over 11 pounds. He's about 15.5 inches in height with a width of 12 inches and total depth of about 8 inches. Okay, we'll start off with the base again, where that was one of the weak spots on the Iron Man piece. They did a much better job. As you can see, there's no stability issues with this. I think mostly because it's a bigger and a better proportion piece, and also this base is much heavier. The only problem I have with this piece is where the other one felt like it's slate, this feels a different texture of road. It also looks different. They're supposed to be team paired up, but it actually looks like they're on two different streets. So unless Iron Man's fighting somewhere where there's rain, this definitely has a different look, where it's a more matte, where the Iron Man piece is more of a gloss finish to it. Now we start looking at the different aspects of the paint jobs on the different parts of Captain America, and this is where this piece really shines. The boots could actually feel the ripples in it. The buckles, of course, are they don't feel metal, but they definitely have a different feel, and everything's a different texture. This entire piece is all sculpted. It actually looks like it's mixed media, but everything on it is sculpted. Now we move into his legs for his uniform, and this is amazing. It feels like it's a mix of denim and spandex. It actually has an abrasive feel. You could actually even feel the seams in it. I was convinced that this had to be fabric on it, and I looked into it, and it's completely sculpted. I mean, even the ripples behind the clothing, all the folds and the seams in it, everything is sculpted. Then he has knee pads on, which feels, once again, it's a different texture, but it actually feels if it is bone-like or very hard. I think that's probably just the sculpt, that they didn't put any type of fabric texture on top of it, just painted like that. Then the elbow pads are also the same thing. We move up to the upper body and the shield, the classic iconic Captain America shield. This is reminiscent more of old school or comics. It's not that new metallic look that you see in the movies. For the torso, they used the same, for the red stripes, they used the same techniques that they used on the pants. And then the in-between for all the white stripes, they used probably the same technique, it feels like. That's the knee pads and the elbow pads. All the pouches on it, it feels more like how the boots are. And the belt, once again, another piece feels like fabric, feels like the stripes and the pants again. And we move to the upper torso, and we have the Captain America star right in the middle of the chest. And what they did, instead of putting a star on top of it, it's actually cut out. And then we have the classic scale that he has on his uniforms. You can actually feel each individual scale. If you compare it to the XM or the original Sideshow pieces out there, they had scales, but they were more like painted on, and when you touched it, felt like porcelain or just a very smooth ceramic. This, you actually feel each little ripple as if it's individual. The gloves feel exactly the same texture as the boots. The fabric for the sleeves feel exactly the same as the pants. Lastly is the portrait. This is the exclusive one, which was limited to 500, so it has an old school look to it with the feathered wings on his head. I love this portrait because it has amazing detail. You can see sewn stitching of the cowl as if he possibly made it himself or someone hand sewn this for him. The A, which is raised off the head, very traditional looking. This is the portrait that comes with the standard edition, or what they call the collector's edition. It has still the raised A, but it doesn't have raised wings on the side. It has them printed on the side, and you also lose that nice stitching. It has groove lines into the mask. Okay, so this piece does have some amazing paint jobs on it, but it does have its few flaws. Sort of like the Iron Man, they went with a battle damage paint job on the shield. I'm just not a huge fan of it. So I had to look at Sideshow's website to see if this is how the artist's interpretation of it, or if there's an issue with the paint job. As you can see here, you'll have marks on the shield, which I would assume is supposed to be scuff marks. But to me, instead of looking like battle damage, it looks like somebody just sanded it off with a Brillo pad. I would have much rather have seen this shield completely just painted, as opposed to look like there's just paint marks missing on it. The other thing about the shield is it's a resin, but it feels so light. I understand they couldn't do metal. I just wish they could have made this heavier, a little thicker. It weighs like it's an ounce. It actually feels like it's like a little plastic toy. Just really wish they could have did something a little more heft, or possibly use the same paint technique they did on Iron Man. It would have made it feel like that it was a die cast or possibly metal. I'm going to show you what the back looks like. They did a nice job, once again, sculpted the handles and the glove. But besides that, my biggest issue with the piece is the actual head sculpt. I prefer the old school better. I actually think they should have included that as the primary head and then include this as a secondary. When you look at the cowl, you either think that he's putting it on after he has the uniform on, or he has it on and he's pulling the uniform on. Either which way. You either want to see it over the top of the uniform or you want to see it coming out. So it looks like they chose the option of the neckline coming out. The problem is that two things. There's a lot of play in putting these on. Usually you put one on, it locks in, and that's it. But there's a lot of wiggle room, and anytime you move it, as you can see, you're going to get a big gap around the neckline. You'll have one neckline that will line in really well, but then you're going to have one side that's not going to line up too well. So usually you want to adjust it. There's like a V in the neck, and you would want to line up with the chest. But no matter how you move it around, you'll get it. This might be the best I have it, but you'll just see there's definitely spacing. And this could be my portrait. Maybe they're not all like that, but it just doesn't seem like it's fitted right. Now, when I swap it to the other portrait, it's going to look different. Just put the other portrait in, and you can see around the neck, it's much better. It's a tighter look. You really don't see a crease. So possibly you get to the other neat side, but that could just look like shadow. When you step away, you're not going to notice it. This also has a lot of play into it, and then depending how you turn it, but you'd want to have the seam off the shoulder coming into the seam of the cowl, but this one just looks like it fits so much better, and I will most likely have this one displayed on the statue at all times. So now we go to the ratings. For me, value on the Iron Man, if you have the exclusive edition, it's a 5 out of 5. And for quality, I'd say it's a 4 out of 5. The only real big issue is the wobbling factor of it. That's easily fixed. Not a huge fan of the little scuff paint jobs, but it's not really that noticeable once you step a foot or so away. Now for Captain America, for its value, if you got the exclusive, I'd say it's 4.5 out of 5. If you just got the collector's edition, I would probably knock it down to a 4 out of 5. Mostly because I think the exclusive portrait is better. What I would like to have seen is that they made this whole line, an old school line as the standard, and then made the exclusive given the newer portraits. I think there's so much Avengers stuff coming out over the past year and probably for the next couple of years that they don't have a line from the classic series. So this could have been it. Quality wise, even though it's got a great paint job, just the things between the shield scuff marks really bothers me. The one portrait that just not fitting right, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So overall, if you were going to have to pick one, Iron Man gets a 4.5 out of 5, and Captain America would get a 4 out of 5. The Iron Man to me is just a little bit better. So here they are all together. I just looked up the Hulk that's going to be coming out next year, and the dimensions are almost identical. He's actually going to be an inch taller than the highest point that he is now, and about 2 inches deeper in depth. So that is a pretty close comparison. And then I believe also the Thor is going to be just a little smaller than him. So these 4 pieces all together will take up a lot of real estate. So that's it for this review. Thanks everybody for watching. If you have any questions, comments, please leave below. You also check us out on Facebook. Thank you.